Joe Hopkins here, and today I'm doing a new episode of You Need to Hear This Album. The album that I was listening to that you need to hear is Freak Scene by Pacifica. And Pacifica is a band that a lot of you guys have commented that I should listen to. I should check them out. So I did. I did check them out. And I really, really like them, right? Apparently, it's these two girls from Argentina, Inez and Martina, which, coincidentally, my aunt's name is Inez, and she was named after one of our relatives from Argentina, right? I've got family in Argentina. I've never met them, but, so, yeah, coincidence? Probably. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe I'm related to them. Who knows? Anyway, so I listened to the album. I played a little bit of it for my wife, and she said it reminds her of early U2, like from Boy, early stuff, War, those early albums. It reminds her of that a bit. I get it. I can see it. It does definitely have like an 80s, maybe early 90s indie rock kind of vibe to it, and I dig that. I dig it a lot. Good songs. They're good singers. The bass is awesome. I'm not sure which one of them plays bass. One of the two girls plays bass and the other one plays guitar. And, I guess they got a drummer and a second guitarist for their band. Mostly they're a duo. But, they got some other musicians. Obviously, to play live gigs, you need at least a drummer. And I was looking at some of their live stuff. There's a second guitarist there, too. And they're pretty good. They got these two young guys to, fill in the rest of the band. And it's good stuff. I like the songs. I like their voices. Like I said, I love the bass. I was trying to find out which one's the bass player, and I still don't know. If anybody knows, tell me. The bass is really kicking. That girl can play the crap out of that thing. The bass lines on these songs are very good. It's a pretty simple type of music, bass, guitar, drums, that kind of thing. Everything's very, you can hear all the parts perfectly fine. There isn't a whole lot to mix in because very simple stuff, you know what I mean? Drums, bass, guitar, vocals. There you go. Yeah. And I like it. Like with a lot of bands like that come off as kind of indie or punk, the bass really carries a lot of the weight with the song. You know what I mean? Anybody that listens to a lot of older indie music or punk music from the 80s, early 90s, same kind of vibe, right? Everybody's kind of following that that bass guitar. That carries a lot of it, and the guitar is just chords. Kind of like with Green Day, who's also a lot like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, they did give me a lot of that kind of indie rock vibe, kind of like a lot of those girl punk bands from the 90s that I love so much. They could have fit in with that whole scene. The songwriting is a little more modern than that, like the vibe, the sound. But this is a band that could have fit in the 80s and in through the 90s just fine. The bands that get compared to a lot are a little bit newer than that, like, the Vines or the Strokes, that kind of stuff. But they really do remind me a lot of some of my favorite indie bands from that time period, like Babes in Toyland or Hole or Bikini Kill, that kind of girl punk stuff from the 90s. Really, reminds me a good bit of that kind of stuff, or going back a bit further, maybe kind of similar to the Melvins, that kind of thing. The Melvins are probably a bit heavier, but that sort of feel, the feel that Nirvana came out of, you know what I mean? That whole scene that kind of spawned that, grunge and 90s alternative came out of that whole sound. This feels like the pre-grunge, so to speak. But, when my wife says it has that early 80s vibe, yeah, like early U2 or The Cure, that kind of thing, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I like the I like the mix too. I honestly, I've always liked real simple rock and roll stuff like that. It works really well. The two girls, I believe on parts they take turns back and forth singing. They sing well together. It sounds really good. And yeah, they're from Argentina. All the songs are in English, though, if anybody's wondering. Argentina seems one of them strange countries. Is it really Latin? Is it? Because, it's probably the least Latin country in South America. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, if anybody's worried about what are they ethnically, who the hell knows? It's Argentina. Argentina got everybody. They got everybody. Everybody went to Argentina. My ancestors, one of them went to Argentina. And, like I said. So, anyway, it's an album worth listening to. Apparently, they had an album before this one called Not a Cover Band, I think it was called. I haven't listened to that one yet, but this is their first, major label release, Freak Scene. And it's a good album. It's solid. It's not a terribly long album. It's half hour of your time. Good songs, like I said. Good solid flow to it. I like the way the songs move into each other. It's a solid album as far as albums go. Because there are bands out there, they have songs you like, but you listen to the album, it's taken as a whole, it's there are songs I like in here. Now, this one, the whole album, pretty good stuff. It's kind of interesting these days. Most of the bands that I really like anymore that, are newer, are all girl bands. They're all chicks. I don't know what it is. Something about, my truth is being spoken by the women nowadays. Kind of an interesting thought. Why am I tending toward that? Well, I don't know, man. I think, the feminine is coming into its own, right? A lot of really, really, really good bands that are either all female or female fronted these days. And I'm digging it. I really am. I've always liked girl bands, though. All through the years. Like I said, in the 90s, I loved all the girl bands. Even in the 80s, and there was less of it the further back you go. Right, for some reason, right? Music was kind of misogynistic at one time. But I've always tended toward the female-fronted bands. I think women, I don't know, something about the female voice, it works. You know what I mean? A lot of the bands that I like, the guy bands I like, have dudes with higher pitched voices, which is funny because most of the female singers I like tend to have lower voices. But that's neither here nor there. You want to know about the album and why you need to hear it. Well, the reason it kept coming up on my channel, I've done some videos about The Warning, which is a band I really love, and apparently a lot of you guys do too. And whenever you talk about The Warning, Pacifica comes up, or at least in the last year or so. Very well, maybe more recently than that, but very recently, every time I talk about The Warning, people mention Pacifica. You look up The Warning and Pacifica comes up too. So I thought I should check them out because I really like The Warning. Will I really like Pacifica? Yes, I do. And no, they're not that similar. They're really not. The Warning has way more of a modern hard rock metal kind of sound, and Pacifica definitely has that indie rock punk thing going on, which I dig both. I think they get lumped together because they're both female-fronted bands from South. One's from Mexico, one's from Argentina. But yeah, they're not that similar, really. But I really like them both. I can see why they come up together. In the conversation. They're both newer bands, and they both rock really, really hard. I like both of them, and it's worth checking it out. I'd recommend that you guys check them out, right? Apparently Pacifica is getting really popular, all of a sudden, something on YouTube just caught, and you know, I look to see if they're on tour. They're not. Apparently, they played a bunch of shows up around the New York area and sold them all out and did really well, and then didn't tour the rest of the country, which is a damn shame. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see it. Hey, they keep getting mentioned with the Warning. Maybe they'll open for the Warning. That would be awesome. The next time the Warning comes around, they need to get Pacifica opening for them. That way I can go and get a 2-for-1, you know, buy tickets to one show and get to see both of them. That'd be awesome. So yeah, here's to me hoping that they go on tour at some point, so I go check them out, and that they play somewhere nearby, because nearby to where I am. That's always disappointing when a band you really want to see is on tour and they're not coming to your area, right? Right now, Mastodon is on tour with Coheed and Cambria, and I really want to see that show, and there's like 4 or 5 different dates that are all 5 hours away from me. But nothing any closer. It's frustrating. Anyway, you guys should go check out Freak Scene by Pacifica. Give it a listen. Like I said, it's not a terribly long album. It's pretty easy to get through if you don't have a lot of time, or just if you're driving in the car. Turn on, you know, everybody's got the Spotify nowadays. You get on your phone, put it on, stream it, whatever, and give it a listen. Driving around. Driving is one of the best ways to listen to music. When you're driving somewhere, you just got to drive and listen to tunes, right? Always fun to do that, or just sit down and listen to it. Yeah, and listen to my album. Here at the end, there's a playlist. It says Sad and Alone, Live from the Back Room. That's me. And I have 2 albums out now, and they're both on streaming. Links down below. That's my pitch. I'm pitching me. You should check me out. I play music too, damn it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I love y'all. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.